All right, let's see. Streaming, starting the stream. As you can tell, I'm using OBS Studio here for some strange reason you happen to be watching. This is Marcel. Pretend I'm sitting here drinking a glass of wine. This is Marcel Gagne. And, well, last week I did 3 days where I decided to do some live streaming. Oh, I better minimize this. I decided to do some live streaming on Twitch just to see how that went over and how things were going. And this week I've decided I'm going to repeat the experiment. Well, it's not going to be exactly repeated because I'm not going to do exactly the same thing that I did last week, but I'm going to repeat the experiment, and this time around, I'm going to do this using YouTube Gaming. So if for some strange reason you happen to be out there listening, I'd, leave me a comment, say something, and let's do this thing, okay? All right, here's what we're going to do. The very first thing I'm going to talk to you about is that I did I installed a machine last week. I called it Fluffy Bunny. There's Fluffy Bunny over there. And just for the heck of it, I'll say, we'll apply in case I wouldn't change something. And I'll say I'll boot Fluffy Bunny. Okay, so we're going to boot Fluffy Bunny. Fluffy Bunny is starting. It's a Debian 9 distribution. And there it goes. It's coming up. And as you may or may not recall, as this machine is booting up here, I could go in here and I could create a machine. There's a nice wizard for creating a machine. And I click Next. And I'm going to say Linux 2.6 is going to be what it is. And I'm going to say KVM for the type of machine that it is. And I'm going to call this machine, Soft Kitty. I don't know why I'm choosing names like this. It doesn't really matter, does it? And then I'm going to say next. And for next, I'm going to say the network is going to be fine. And I'm going to hit the finish button. And now, of course, I've got another machine with a 20 gigabyte hard drive ready to fire up, ready to boot. Of course, there's no operating system. There's nothing on this thing. So I'm going to go ahead and change the graphics to QXL again, just for fun. And I'm going to change there we go, another 2 gigabytes of memory for that one. And I'm going to say apply. Okay, so that's my new machine. And I'm going to go over to where it says media over here. And under media, I'm going to click, let's see. Let's go to the CD-ROM here. And let's go to a folder that I've got called ISOs. And there are a whole bunch of ISO files that I can install from. Now, one of the distributions I downloaded just for a laugh was something called Zoran OS 12.2 Core. All right, so let's take that one, and then as we can see, like we've already booted up this on my machine here, so I'm actually going to turn this one off. In fact, I'm going to just click the X in the corner, and here I'm going to cancel that, and I'm going to take this one here, and let me see. The machine has stopped. Okay, good. So I've got Soft Kitty sitting over here, and Soft Kitty does not have an operating system associated with it yet, okay? So I'm going to go into the virtual machine, and I'm going to... What am I going to do? What am I going to do? I'm going to pause for a second is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to choose the... where the heck is it? Oh, yes. I'm going to choose a different CD-ROM. So I'm going to go over here to where it says media. I'm going to click on the CD-ROM icon. And just because this is still the experimental mode, I'm actually going to go and send yet another tweet here. And I'm going to say live streaming now. Live streaming now. Happening now. That's right, happening now. And I'm going to say reply, because I'm replying here. And I say on now. On now. There we go. On now, exclamation point reply. There we go. I've done it. On now. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to click the little button here that says, and I'm going to go over to ISOs. And there's a whole bunch of things I've loaded there. Believe it or not, that is Windows XP Service Pack 1. And that's not what I'm. You know what? I could show you that if you really really desperately want to see an old Windows install, we could do that. But instead, let's go to the Zoran OS here, okay? And I'm going to click open, and now the CD-ROM is going to be attached to this thing, and now I'm just going to click apply because I like the way that it looks. Let's take a look at my virtual machine one more time. Graphics QXL. We'll say that's fine. 2 gigabytes of RAM, and let's hit the button to start. All right, so this thing is booting. Soft Kitty is now booting. Soft Kitty is something called Zoran OS. And you might ask yourself, where did I come up with this crazy Linux distribution? Because, you might know Ubuntu, you might know Red Hat, you might know SUSE or OpenSUSE. But I'm installing something that, is not necessarily the most common one for, that people are going to jump up and go, hey, I know what that is. Zoran OS. All right, so the install has started. So let's bring up the web browser over here just so that you can get an idea where you can find all these things. So if there are obviously some really big popular Linux distributions. In fact, if you go to this website here, distrowatch.com has a list of presumably the most popular Linux distributions based on page hit ranking. One of them is Linux Mint, Debian, Manjaro. Who would have thought Manjaro would be number 3? I think that number has been boosted by Manjaro fans that are all getting together. They're all ganging up on this page here to say, I want to see more Manjaro up here. Antergos. What the heck? I don't even know what Antergos is. And it's number 5. Let's have a look at this. Number 5. How can it be number 5? I don't even know what this is. It's a Linux distribution based on Arch Linux. All right, well, that's kind of cool. Antergos. I wonder if that's how you pronounce it. Antergos. Popularity, hits per day. How can this be like number 5? Formerly Synarch. I don't even know what it was when it was Synarch. And now we've got like, number 5 on this page. How is this even possible? Let's go to antergos.com. Just because I am like totally curious. Meet Antergos. Is it pretty? Is it beautiful? Am I gonna love it? Ready to kiss. So we can get close and personal with this thing. Very nice. Very nice. Try and I'm gonna skip that one just because I want to go back here. I wanted to point out something about Distrowatch. So Distrowatch will show you what the supposedly more popular distributions are. Number 10 is Zoran. Now the reason I'm mentioning Zoran at the moment is because I went up here to take a look in the latest news and updates, and I'm scrolling down and I'm scrolling down. We got Oracle there, and there's Zoran. It's like, that's really interesting. What's Zoran? I don't know what Zoran is, but let's find out. Okay. So we go over to Zoran and we go over to the website and I delete the latest ISO. And then, of course, we go back to my machine here. And you know what? I'm not going to install it. I'm just going to say try Zoran for the moment. Okay. So I'm going to say try Zoran so that we can boot up off the live CD instead of installing it directly. So let's go Zoran. And in fact, let's increase the size of that screen so that it's a little bit more visible, because at the moment it's teeny, teeny, tiny. There we go. All right. Come on, soft kitty. Let's do something there, soft kitty. All right, listen, while I'm waiting for that to boot up, to go live. So that's how I found out, that this particular distribution was out there. There's SUSE Linux Enterprise, Untangle, Parted, well, sometimes it's a distribution, sometimes not really. Parted Magic obviously is used in plenty of distributions, but it's a live CD, which is designed to work with hard disks and partitions. So it is actually a Linux distributions in this case. Wonderful. Core OS, Tiny Core Linux. Really, really cool stuff. Okay, so you can find out all these different distributions, find out who's got the latest, and then you can go and you can read up on the various ones, and you can, experiment with things. Find out what is, what may or may not be interesting to you. All right, so Ubuntu, or you can go, if you happen to know what it is, ubuntu.com, fedoraproject.org, or in this case, getfedora.org. Fedora, by the way, is the, well, actually, I was going to say Red Hat, freely available, but unsupported by Red Hat directly. You can think of it as bleeding edge Red Hat if you want. That's what Fedora kind of is, bleeding edge Red Hat. If you want a Red Hat without support or distribution or anything like that, then the place you want to go for that one is CentOS.org. CentOS.org. And that's the CentOS project, community driven. And by the way, it is supported by Red Hat as well. So, but it is basically a mirror of the Red Hat distribution without, any of the support contracts that exist with Red Hat, because of course Red Hat is really a big support organization for Linux. Linux Mint, one of the most popular Linux distributions out there, at linuxmint.com. And of course, as I pointed out, something like Zoran OS. Now let's go back and see how this, there we go. Look at that. We have a beautiful, gorgeous Linux desktop. Remember, this is live. I haven't actually installed this yet. We can install it here, but we're running it from the live CD without actually having to do any kind of an installation. If I click here, It brings up our menu of applications, and as you can tell, it says that this is the live session user because obviously I'm running it live as opposed to installing it. We've got accessories here. All right, accessories. Activity journal. Well, that sounds interesting. What is the activity journal? Let's fire that up and take a look at it, shall we? Firing it up, and while there we go. Yesterday 30 activity journal. Interesting. I'm gonna have to check that out at some point. Find out exactly what that is. Let's minimize that, and I'm gonna go back into this thing here, and then we can take a look and see what makes distribution interesting. We've got solitaire, mahjong, mines. We've got a couple of Sudoku. It sounds like it's a distribution for people who are a little bit more into their puzzle games, I guess. Internet, empathy, Geary. Apparently, we're going for slightly less heavy-duty things here. The GIMP over in the graphics department, multimedia. What do we got? Bracero, cheese. It's kind of a mixed bag of a lot of things. It's got a KDE sort of look, but of course, it's got some common, what I would call GNOME type application, specifically in here. Bracero would be a GNOME CD burner. Cheese, well, cheese is kind of like a photo booth application. You can click cheese. Pitavi is a video editor, but again, it's a popular one in the GNOME world. Same thing with Rhythmbox for a multimedia audio player. So it's kind of a mixed bag. It's kind of interesting. But let's close Zoran OX. So I just killed it. That's Soft Kitty. Soft Kitty is down at the moment. What I wanted to show you, however, is, believe it or not, like all this overhead that you've got, like with AQAMU here, is something that you don't actually really need at all. I mean, if you want to get totally crazy, you can just go down here. Let's take a look at a bunch of ISO images that I've downloaded. Debian, Linux Mint, Remix OS, which, by the way, is Android to run on a PC for that matter. It's kind of cool. Ubuntu, and there's Zoran OS over there. So let's take a look at this command here. QEMU system x86-64, because QEMU can mimic a lot of different environments. In fact, let's go back to AQEMU a second here and take a look. Here's our architecture, IBM PC, but we can do Power PCs, MIPS, like also Spark. I mean, there's tons of different architectures that we can actually use, even though that's actually not what we're doing here. So command line, I can say what kind of a video driver. I just want to use a standard VGA video driver. That's what I'm going to use at the moment. Enable KVM for acceleration. I'm going to give this thing 2048 meg, in other words, 2 gig of RAM in which to operate. I want to boot from the D drive, and the D drive just happens to be this CD-ROM image, Linux Mint. So I'm going to boot up off the live Linux Mint distribution without firing up any other graphical tools whatsoever, without installing it, just right here from the command line. So check it out. And I typed it out because, so you don't have to see me doing all the typing mistakes. All right, automatic boot in 6 seconds. Let's not wait for that. Let's just say start Linux Mint. And Linux Mint is starting up. So let me expand that window a little bit so that you can see this better. And we are going to fire Linux Mint 18.2. By the way, I just installed Linux Mint 18.2 for my parents' PC. It's a very nice Linux distribution. Excuse me. It's a very nice Linux distribution. It's very easy to use. It's very friendly. And it basically comes with everything that you might want and or need from a Linux distribution. Okay, look at that. Linux Mint coming up, wired connection. That's because it thinks I'm using a wired connection, but it's actually riding off my own internet connection here. And just wait for the distribution to finish booting up here. By the way, this is the KDE version, so you can see widgets and things like that. You will see, there we go, down at the bottom. It is appearing. It is starting to appear. We are almost there. Almost there. There's the application launcher, and there you do. You've got a KDE type desktop, and it's not scaling. Maybe I could have used a better video driver than the standard VGA one. So there we go. There we go. It's resizing properly. There we go. It just took it a minute to be able to do that. And of course, I just went and changed it again by yanking it and resizing it yet again. Oh no! There we go. There we go. Anyway, so there you go. So we've got our Linux distribution running from the command line, even though I could have, like I said, gone in and done it through the graphical stuff, but just this command line right here, QEMU, blah, 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 phooey, allows me to run a distribution without having to do anything else fancy. And as a matter of fact, let me just click the X here and we'll get out of there. So that's it. So that is where I'm going to end my experiment with YouTube Gaming today, the YouTube Live gaming channel, because like I said, I wanted to find out and see what how this felt compared to the Twitch experience. So hopefully we'll see you back here later. I'll try and give you a little bit more advance warning before. I didn't give a lot of advance warning because, frankly, like I said, it was an experiment, and it is still an experiment until I know what I'm doing and I feel a little bit more comfortable. But that's where we are. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.